Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Tamlyn and this is Sewn on the Tyne, and I'm here today with a collaboration video and a pattern review. So a few weeks ago I got chatting to Kristen from the Dahlia Society and Keely, voice of a creative, and we chatted about how we could work together on YouTube and came up with the idea that we would all sew the same garment and film a pattern review. So that's what we decided to do, and we agreed on the True Bias Shelby dress and romper. So that's what today's video is going to be about. I just want to start off by saying I have been ill on the sofa all day. I've been wrapped in a blanket and my pyjamas. I have forced myself to get up, put a bit of makeup on to film this video because there's a deadline. We've agreed on a time and I've already delayed that time, so it has to go up today. So I just wanted to sort of warn you that if I'm not my usual bright bubbly self, it's because I'm not feeling too great, but it's fine, we'll get through this. So if you watched my October Makes and Favourites, you will know that Kristen has a YouTube channel called the Dahlia Society. She's Australian and I love her channel and I recommended it in my last video, and I'm really thrilled that lots of you have headed over there and subscribed to her channel, which is great. You will also know that Keely is a good friend of mine. She has a YouTube channel called Voice of a Creative. We have been working on a challenge all year called Sewing Patterns and Prints over on Instagram. We chat very often. It's great to have the three of us working together on this. So when we decided to make the True Bias Shelby, we talked about which versions we were all going to make, and it just so happens that the three of us all wanted to make a different version. So the Shelby pattern comes in 4 variations. Views A and B are a dress style and view C and D are a romper. Each version, so the dress and the romper, comes in either a short mid-thigh length or an ankle length version. The version that I decided to make was the romper short version, which is version C. And I know that Keely and Kristen have both made a different version, but you will have to head over to their videos to see which version they have decided to make. Features of this pattern are that it is constructed with princess seams that adds to make a really nice shape. It's got a V neckline and buttons all the way down the front. It also has a tie at the back that you can use to bring in because it is quite roomy, so use that tie to bring it in at the waist and it just adds to that lovely shape. The recommended fabrics for the Shelby are quite lightweight fabrics, so things like viscose, crepe, linen, silk. Nice lightweight woven fabrics but that have some nice drape to them, because the style of the Shelby around the hem area is very loose and flowy and you need that fabric that's got nice drape and movement to work with that. The size range for this pattern goes from 0 up to 18. Now that's not the hugest range of sizes, but I know that True Bias are working on increasing their range of sizes at the moment, and they've started with the Lodo dress and they've increased the size range up to a 30 for that, and I think they are going to go back and do that for the other patterns as well. So the fabric I decided to use for my Shelby is a lightweight viscose. I bought this from Oso, which is a shop in Ireland, and they also sell online, so I will link them down below. I love the green colour and the floral design. I feel like it's quite festive, so quite appropriate for this time of year. In terms of the construction of this pattern, I didn't have any issues along the way. It's a really straightforward make, to be honest. When you first cut it out, it seems like there are lots and lots of pieces because it has princess seams. So we've got 2 front panels, 2 front side panels, 2 back side panels, and then 2 centre back panels. So there's a lot going on there. And then you've got the sleeves and the ties. So yeah, there are quite a lot of pieces to cut out, but actually the construction of the garment itself is really quite quick and easy. I used just my regular machine, but then I did finish all of my seams with an overlocker. I put 4 different colours of, well, 4 different shades of thread into my overlocker, 4 shades of green, and it makes a really nice finish on the inside. When I was making the garment up, I did come across a couple of little mistakes in the pattern instructions, so just to point those out to you. In step 5, where you begin to construct the ties, it says to put the fabric wrong sides together and pin and stitch, and then it says in the next step to turn your ties out the right side. So that was actually incorrect, and thankfully I noticed that before I did go ahead and pin and sew. Actually, you do them as you would usually do ties, which is to fold it right sides together, stitch, and then turn it out the other way, and then you've got your lovely ties with the right side of the fabric on the outside. I also got a little bit muddled when it came to doing the buttonholes, because there are pattern pieces which are buttonhole marking pieces. So the buttonhole marking pieces had a little mistake on, I think. One set of them said this is for versions A and C, and the other set said this is for versions C and D. So version B wasn't mentioned anywhere, and there were two apparent pattern pieces to mark the buttonholes for version C, but they had a different number of buttonholes on, so it was a little bit confusing. So I sort of went back to the original instructions, and it said that the romper version has 5 buttonholes. So that's the piece that I got out, and I marked those buttonholes on and went ahead and did my buttonholes, which were fine. My machine handles buttonholes really well, so that was great. I did just want to talk about some of the tools that I used while I was making my Shelby, and they might come in useful to you if you want to make it, or any garment, to be honest, these would be useful. So to mark on my buttonholes, I used a small rotary cutter to cut the buttonhole markings on the pattern piece, and then the marking tool that I used was the Prim trick marker. Now, I was very lucky recently. Prim actually sent me quite a few bits of equipment for using at my sewing socials that I host at First for Fabrics, and also in the future, well, at the start of next year, I'm going to start running workshops, and they have kindly, very kindly, sent some bits of equipment along to me that I could use in those workshops. And this was one of the things that arrived. So it's just a really fine marker pen, and it just erases in the air erasable, which is great. So I just use that through the holes in the paper to mark on my buttonholes. Then to cut my buttonholes, I've recommended this before, but I use a Clover buttonhole chisel. I know that some people just use a seam ripper, and I can't bear it. It's not only a little bit messy, but also the risk of ripping through the end of your fabric. And I know you could put a pin at the end to stop that from happening, but this is just so inexpensive and it works fantastically well, so I'd highly recommend a buttonhole chisel. Then the buttons that I used for my Shelby are self-cover buttons. So I just thought they would look really nice, and I'll show you some of the finished buttons that I actually made. There we go, and another one. So I just obviously used the fabric that was left over from my dress and made those self-cover buttons. So I ordered just some simple, I've got them all in a little storage container, some simple self-cover button bases. So you have this part, and you have a little back that goes on. They were really inexpensive from Amazon. I think you got 100, so that's really useful. Then I bought a Prim self-cover button maker. So it looks a bit like this. Well, it looks exactly like this, because this is what it is. And you make your button in this section. You then press this section into the top, like that. And then you simply pop out your button at the end. So yeah, I'm really happy with those, really delighted, and I think they look really, really great on the finished garment. One thing I did find very useful when I was cutting the fabric for the self-cover buttons was a mini rotary cutter. So again, I just got this one from Amazon, and I use it all the time when I'm cutting out fabric. If it's a small curve or a fiddly area, I use this small rotary cutter, and also it was great for cutting out the little circles of fabric that I needed for my self-cover buttons. The last tool that I'll show you did feature in my top 5 sewing tools, but it's what I used for the hems of my dress or my romper, and it's the Rocking Stitch seamstress gauge. So this is just a Perspex sewing gauge which has lots of different measurements on. Now this is in centimetres, but Barbara of Rocking Stitch has just released a seamstress gauge that is in inches as well, so you can get the metric or the imperial. I'm actually hoping to get the inches version as well, so I've got both. I like to work in inches and centimetres, depends what the mood takes me that day. So I finished my romper and it came to trying it on, and I am happy overall with the look of the romper, but there are a couple of things that I need to tweak before I'll be fully happy. Now, the button placement on the front, the top button, I've actually got this pinned at the moment, but we'll put in a little video to show you. I need to move over this top button because it's just not sitting in the right place, and when it's not pinned together like I've got it now, it sits open and shows off the top of my bra, which is not really the look I'm going for. So yeah, I'm going to move this button over, the top button over, and also I don't think there's enough buttons on here. I've got 5 buttons on as the guidance in the instructions suggested, but I think I actually need another button in between every 2 buttons on my romper because there's a little bit of gaping and it just doesn't quite sit right, and I think if I had an extra button in between each of the 2 buttons, I think it would sit so much better. So that's what I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm going to, well, I've got 3 buttons here, and make a couple more if I need to, and I'll get those sewn on. I think with those changes it'll just sort out that issue where it's not quite sitting right at the front, and I think I'll be much happier with it. So to summarise, I am overall very happy with the make. I definitely want to make another one. I'd love to make the ankle length version of the dress probably, or maybe the romper. Maybe I just need a version of each, but I'll definitely be adding more buttons to the pattern. I'm really happy with the fabric I've used, and I will get wear out of it this winter. I am wearing it with black tights at the moment because it's just too cold to be going bare-legged, but I think I will be able to wear this in the summer as well. One little thing I'm annoyed about is when I planned this make, I planned to add pockets. It doesn't have pockets in the pattern, but it does have side seams where you could add pockets quite easily. I'd planned to do that, I had enough fabric, and I completely forgot. And then yesterday when I was working on it, I was like, oh, it's not going to have pockets because I forgot and I've sewn it all up, so never mind. But on my next one I will be adding pockets because I just like to have my hands in my pockets, or have the option of doing that anyway. I have really loved the experience of working with Keely and Kristen. We've chatted lots about the making process and helped each other along the way and given each other guidance, and it's just been really lovely to have our conversations. Keely in Bristol, me in Newcastle, Kristen in Australia, and just having that conversation has been wonderful. We've really enjoyed it. So much so that we've already planned our next collaboration video, and we are going to be making the Deer and Doe Maya Sotis dress. And I thought I would just show you the fabric that I have got to make that with. So I wanted a fabric that I could use for this dress that would see me through the Christmas festive season. So I spotted this on Stitchy Bee, and I decided to order this. So it's a lovely tartan, it's a cotton, but it was described on the website as being more like a cotton lawn, so quite lightweight. Sorry, it's got some cardboard in. I think that's the way that Cheryl from Stitchy Bee stores her fabric or sends her fabric out. I'm just going to unwrap it so I can show you the drape. There you go. So here we go. Let's see if we can get a bit of the drape of this fabric, because it does drape. Here we go. So we've got the lovely, quite small scale tartan print, and it's got green, red and blue and a cream colour, and there we go. Yeah, I'm going to make the Maya Sotis dress out of this. We're hoping obviously to get this video up around the 2nd week in December because I want this made for Christmas. So we'll be chatting to each other again, we'll be working together in our opposite ends of the world to create our Maya Sotis dress, and then we'll bring you the pattern review in December sometime. I would highly recommend, after you have finished watching this, that you head over to Keely's channel to watch her video and Kristen's channel to watch her video, and if you haven't already subscribed to them both, I would highly recommend it. I love watching all of their videos. I binge watch them often, and actually recently I went back to the very start of Keely's channel and started watching her videos from the beginning again, because she's just lovely company to have in my sewing room, as is Kristen. So yeah, 2 recommendations for you to go and check out. Thank you both of them, because they've been wonderfully supportive and they haven't been annoyed, or they haven't told me anyway, when I've delayed things because this video was meant to go up yesterday. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments down below if you have made the Shelby or if you're interested in making the Shelby. I wasn't when the pattern first came out, but then I saw a make on Instagram that absolutely sold it to me. We'll add it in here. It was Patsy, whose Instagram is Patsy Poo Makes, and she made the most beautiful romper, the short romper, out of an art gallery rayon, and it looks amazing on her. And that was the version that really sold this pattern to me. So I would suggest, if you've sort of passed it by and you haven't been so interested, maybe have a little look at the hashtag on Instagram and look at some people's versions, and it might just take your fancy. Thank you so much for watching. If you've liked this video, please press the thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Happy sewing! Bye! It was Patsy, whose